Wrestling is all about timing. Well, actually, it's all about having big muscles, looking good in tiny trunks, and pretending to care whilst high-fiving children, but it's also about timing. Whilst not every match is fully planned out in advance, certain key spots usually are, and it can be a real problem if they are forgotten. Just ask these lots, who all made big oopsies that had serious consequences. Okay, well, that's a slight exaggeration. Some of them are just really funny. I'm Adam Pacitti from Cultaholic Wrestling, and this is 10 times wrestlers missed their cue. Join us. Number 10, Kip's slip-up. Wrestling matches are like dominoes because if one thing goes wrong, it can set off a chain reaction. They're also like Domino's pizza because if you consume too much, you will be violently sick. The former part of that philosophy was on display on the October 16th, 2024 episode of AEW Dynamite. Christian Cage was wrestling Jay White in a match that was supposed to feature interference from Kip Sabian. Kip ran down too early though, prompting the Patriarch to yell, "Not yet!" This was bad enough, but things were about to get worse. Hangman Adam Page was supposed to cut off the Sabian run-in, so when he saw he was already out there, the Cowboy came down too. Now both he and Kip were in position way too early, so were forced to just stand around and wait for the actual cue. Slip-ups like this might seem minor, but can have a huge knock-on effect for everybody else involved in a match. This is why timing is one of the most important skills a wrestler can possess, something that these young whippersnappers don't appreciate. This would have never happened back in my day. Number 9, Hardy's late save. Survivor Series 2002 is best remembered for Big Show ending Brock Lesnar's undefeated streak after Paul Heyman's betrayal and the debut of the Elimination Chamber. Not too many will likely recall the match that opened the show, a 6-man tables contest pitting Jeff Hardy, Bubba Ray and Spike Dudley against Rico and 3-Minute Warning. This might be for the best as it contains a whopper of a mistake. Rico climbed to the top rope ostensibly to hit a moonsault, but stopped for some reason. After wobbling around on the turnbuckle for a while, the hairdresser began to yell, "Jeff! Jeff! God damn it, Jeff!" as the MSG crowd watched on in bemusement. Hardy was supposed to cut this attack off, but was far out of position. He was on the other side of the ring, miles away from Rico, so had to wiggle the top rope so that his opponent lost his footing. This looked awful, not helped by Mr. Constantino losing his temper for all to see. The moment was actually edited out of the DVD version of the show, but wrestling fans have long memories. Nice try, WWE, but we see your little game. Number 8, you snooze, you lose. Hornswoggle made the most of his initial WWE appearances from under the ring because WWE decided that's where leprechauns live. You're telling me it was too much trouble to find a rainbow for him to be at the end of? Poor form. The former Cruiserweight champion, yes, that was a thing that happened, would sometimes spend up to 7 hours hidden under it in preparation for his big surprise, with only a PSP to keep him from going insane. Sometimes, though, this wasn't enough, as he found out during a house show. Swoggle was supposed to run interference during a match between Finlay and The Undertaker, but after a night of heavy drinking, he fell asleep while hiding under the ring. His kayfabe dad had to stick his head under the apron to wake him, prompting the little bastard to apologize profusely to Taker under his breath. It could have been much worse though, as Undertaker actually admitted that he thought Swoggle had died because he was taking so long. Hey, at least he would have died doing what he loved, hiding under a really smelly canvas while a bunch of giants stomp around on top of him. Number 7, a monstrous mishap. Battle Royals must be a nightmare to participate in. All those bodies crammed into a comparatively tiny ring, each one of them trying to remember where they need to be at any given moment. One person who found out how troublesome they could be was Braun Strowman, whose mistake almost ended in curtains for 2 of his colleagues. During the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal on the WrestleMania 35 pre-show, Luke Harper was teasing a spot where he was trying to suplex Mustafa Ali out of the ring from the apron. The plan was for Braun to knock them both over the top rope, but in the madness of the match, he simply forgot. After spotting Harper and Ali and realizing that he was out of position, Strowman rushed over and booted his ex-Wyatt pal to the floor with the smaller man awkwardly up in the air. If you slow the footage down, you can see Harper turning Ali's body mid-fall to stop him from landing right on top of his head. Without this quick thinking, who knows what might have happened. Yet another reason why Brody Lee was such a top bloke. Number 6, trailer's failure. Big Boss Man, whose real name was Ray Traylor, just in case you didn't get that opening joke, had a very busy night at Survivor Series 1998. As a member of the corporation, he not only had 2 different matches in the Deadly Games tournament, but also interfered in several others on behalf of his stablemates. He got involved in 2 matches featuring The Rock and was supposed to try and stop Steve Austin as well, but fate had other ideas. The plan was for Mr. McMahon's head of security to sneakily attack Stone Cold during the closing moments of his semi-final against Mankind. When he never showed, however, it was up to Gerald Briscoe to improvise. The Stooge dinked Austin with the lightest chair shot in human history, allowing Foley to pick up the win and advance to the final. This would have been Boss Man's 5th involvement on the night, so you can understand why it might have slipped his mind. Also, I'm fairly sure that fans might have been getting a bit sick of seeing the man from Cobb County, Georgia, so maybe it's for the best that he sat this one out. Number 5, the Silver Spoon. During the Attitude Era, the company really pushed the envelope when it came to risque content, and while there were plenty of half-naked ladies on display and no shortage of colourful language, the F-bomb remained out of bounds. A couple did get thrown mined, though not intentionally. One such instance happened on the August 13th, 2001 edition of Monday Night Raw, toward the end of a long promo segment featuring The Rock, Chris Jericho, Stephanie McMahon, Rhino, and Booker T. In trying to set up the night's main events, the most electrifying man in sports entertainment referred to Booker and Shane McMahon as the punk-ass sucker and the silver spoon mother. Well, you get where this is going. So, that was where the billion-dollar princess was supposed to cut The Rock off, but she got there a second too late and the Great One went ahead with a great big swear. As a cool babyface who said and did pretty much whatever he wanted, it's not exactly like he could have censored himself mid-insult. The use of the word was reportedly the subject of much discussion amongst TNN executives the next day, but there was no real heat on it being used. Number 4, Vader time runs slow. Big Van Vader should have had a huge year in 1996. He signed with WWE, debuting for the company in the Royal Rumble and immediately making headlines by murdering Gorilla Monsoon the night after. The plan was to have him challenge Shawn Michaels for the World Championship later in the year and eventually win the belt from the boy toy. Unfortunately, powerful sources conspired against the Mastodon, forces with long hair, zebra-striped pants, and assless chaps. During the pair's first televised singles encounter at SummerSlam, Michaels went to hit Vader with a top rope move. The plan was for the big man to get out of the way, only for Shawn to land on his feet. Perhaps Vader's mask was on too tight because he did not move an inch. Because HBK was a massive prick around this time, he threw a hissy fit in the ring and stamped on Vader's head whilst cussing him out. This botch, plus other political skullduggery, kiboshed any plans for Vader as a main eventer and set his career into a downward spiral that he would take years to recover from. Number 3, Shinsuke! Shinsuke! The 2018 Men's Royal Rumble came down to 2 groups of 3 performers representing the past and present of WWE. Finn Balor, Shinsuke Nakamura, and Roman Reigns on one side, John Cena, Rey Mysterio, and Randy Orton on the other. After Orton and Mysterio were eliminated, fans were treated to a tantalizing face-off between Reigns and Cena, which WWE thought would get a huge reaction, but the Philadelphia crowd booed because of course they did. Nakamura was supposed to break this up, leading to a big brawl between the remaining 4 entrants, but for some reason, his mind went blank. The King of Strong Style might have gotten away with this faux pas had Cena not started loudly yelling his name. Shinsuke, now, said the 16-time world champion, completely destroying the concept of kayfabe and sending Harley Race spinning in his grave a year before he'd even died. Nakamura finally got the message, it was hard to miss at this point, and the planned spot went ahead a little behind schedule. Shinsuke, of course, went on to win the Rumble itself. I'm just surprised Big Shouty John didn't instruct him to point at the WrestleMania sign, Shinsuke, from ringside. Number 2, the grandest muck-up of them all. It's one thing to forget what you're supposed to do on TV. It's another thing to forget what you're supposed to do on pay-per-view. It's another thing entirely to forget what you're supposed to do at the biggest pay-per-view of the year. And it's really another thing entirely to forget what you're supposed to do in the main event of the biggest pay-per-view of the year. Papa Shango, WWE's resident voodoo practitioner, was all set to cameo in the final match of WrestleMania 8. The plan was for the future Godfather to run in and and break up Hulk Hogan's pinfall on Sid Justice. Is this what happened? Not at all. Instead, Shango didn't appear, forcing Sid to kick out of the atomic leg drop, which was almost unheard of at the time. Manager Harvey Whippleman then had to improvise a DQ on the spot to bring the match to a close. To make matters worse, Shango then ran out anyway, way behind schedule and looking like he'd just been discovered with his hand in the cookie jar. Fans didn't seem to mind when the Ultimate Warrior rocked up to even the odds, but things threatened to fall completely off the rails for a minute there. Number 1, where the F was Vickie? Shango's blunder might be the most high-profile screw-up in WWE history, but this one might be the funniest. At SummerSlam 2005, former friends Eddie Guerrero and Rey Mysterio fought over the custody of Little Dominic. Rey won, but there's no way in hell you can look at this man and tell me he isn't at least 50% Guerrero. The bout was unfortunately riddled with botches, with one in particular being the most infamous. Just when it looked like Eddie was about to win the match, he suddenly stopped at the top of the ladder. After many awkward seconds, Rey knocked Guerrero down, causing him to land hard on the canvas. Cue a visibly furious Eddie screaming, "Where the F was Vickie?" and god damn it for all to hear. Vickie Guerrero, Eddie's wife, was meant to run in and stop her husband, but she never showed. Vickie did eventually make it down to the ring, but way too late for the spot and long after her hubby had made it very clear that something had gone wrong. Well, they didn't call him Latino cool, did they?